Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Engaging Your Donors Year-Round. My name is Lisa Mae Simpson. I serve as the Director of Education here at Forefront. On the off chance that you're not familiar with us, we're the only statewide association in the U.S. that represents both grant makers and nonprofits, as well as their advisors and their allies. Our mission is to build a vibrant social impact sector for all the people of Illinois, and we do that by providing education, advocacy, and research, and by mobilizing our members around campaigns that advance the sector. Before we dive into today's content, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. Everyone's phone lines are muted. That's just to keep the background noise to a minimum, but we really do welcome your questions. So please take a moment to locate the chat box on your screen. Mine is on the lower left-hand corner of my screen. So please type any questions you have there at any time, and we will address them as we go. Also, we are recording this webinar, and we will share a link with you afterwards in case you'd like to review the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our friends at GiveGab, and they're going to dive into today's content.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, my name is Vanessa, and I am one of the project coordinators here at GiveGab. I'm also working closely with Lisa, Kathleen, and Dahlia to put on the next Giving Days that IllGive will be hosting. I'm also joined today by Bridget Cafaro.
Hi everyone, it's great to be with you today.
She's also one of the customer success coordinators, and she's a customer success representative. So if you ever reach out to that little chat bubble, I'm sure you'll see her beautiful face there. All right, so let's dive right into it. Today we're going to talk about donor engagement. So what is donor engagement? Ultimately, it is consistent communication from nonprofits year-round through channels such as social media, blogs, emails, could be written hand letters or mail campaigns. But ultimately, this is to help cultivate and maintain good relationships with your donors. And then this also can help attract new ones. So this may sound very familiar to our discussions around donor stewardship, and this is definitely an extension of that. The social web is a great place to start with this. As you'll see through our presentation, the web is the primary place to be contacting donors. A lot of people are on social media at this point, and then they can also quickly share your messages as well, so that's a great place to start. And it's also about developing and maintaining that symbiotic relationship. So going back to developing those mutually beneficial relationships with your donors, and how do you cultivate that into year-round giving and support. And it's also about being sensitive to donor fatigue. And what I mean by this is mix it up a bit. Don't just ask. You want to make sure that you're giving your donors the information that they need about your organization, following up with any inquiries they have, and then ultimately engaging them, making them feel like they're a part of your organization. And then why is this important? It's very important because there's a high cost to new donor acquisition. So if you think about it in terms of a for-profit business, or even within an organization that's hiring, it takes a lot of effort and cost to obtain those new donors, or obtain that new volunteer, or obtain that new donor. So you don't want to be continuously reiterating that cost, because that increases your cost for your business. If you have those repeat donors or those repeat supporters who are continuously engaging, you're definitely getting a better investment back on your effort. So you really can't afford to not engage your supporters. Donor retention overall is rather low. So these averages can fluctuate depending on the source that you're looking at, but 23% is really a very common average. It goes plus or minus 20% usually. But if you think about it, for every 1 in 5 donors that you have, one of those will come back and become a repeat giver. So that's a really low number. So we want to look at increasing that number for your organization. And also repeat donor retention. So of those repeat donors, 50% of them will continue to be repeat donors. So that is better, But again, as we continue to engage those donors and develop that relationship with them, we can get that number up. And then overall donor retention is at 46% roughly. So having these donors repeat year after year after year and being able to rely on their contributions, not only in a monetary sense, but in other ways as well, will ultimately increase the effectiveness of how your organization is ran. So ultimately having a mix of long-term supporters along with new donors will help your organization be able to allocate other resources to other efforts, because now you're not focusing so much on funding your prospecting efforts. So there really is a good, tangible return on investment. So as we go through this presentation, we're going to hit on 5 elements of donor engagement. You don't have to do all of these. It's not a step-by-step list, but these are the different key aspects of donor engagement that will make your organization successful. So we're going to talk a little bit about understanding what is donor retention, how do we define that, understanding donor stewardship. So how do we steward those donors once they give that first contribution and make them into a lifelong supporter? Also, how do we develop a strategy to attract and retain donors? So we want to look at what are the different things that our organizations can do in order to draw those people in and start building those relationships. And then we'll have some examples of effective modes of engagement, so you can take those back and kind of ponder them over to see if they're a right fit for you. And then we'll also talk about delighting your current donors. So we don't want to forget about them. They've already have a vested interest in your organization and your cause. So how do we keep it fresh for them so that they continue to be engaged? Okay, so understanding donor retention. So donor retention is defined as the measure of how many donors continue to donate to your organization year after year. Nonprofits with a higher donor rate have longer-term supporters, which makes sense. They're keeping those donors in and they're contributing and supporting them year after year. Alternatively, those nonprofits with a lower donor retention rate will continually need to acquire new donors or larger gifts in order to keep up. So with the high cost of acquiring new donors, as I just talked about, those organizations have a higher retention rate because they're able to invest less in the operating budgets that they're prospecting. So the higher your retention rates are, the more you're able to invest in other areas of your organization, because you're not continually trying to prospect donors or acquire new donors or those large gifts. So it helps your organization run a little bit more smoother and be able to focus your efforts more diversely. And if we look at this graph or this chart here, the value of just 1% of retention. So if we look at a organization that has an operating budget of $100,000, if we increase donor retention by even 1%, that's an extra almost $800 in your pocket. So if we start going into these larger budgets, even $100,000, $250,000, that's an extra $4,100 in your budget that you can use towards other things that you didn't have before. So increasing your donor retention does pay off. So going back to our statistics that we saw earlier, 3 out of 4 donors leave and never return. So why is that? For your organization, it's a key question to think about, and studies have shown that it does tie back to effective engagement styles. And then what is your organization's retention rate? So this is something that you can calculate by taking the number of unique donors in a given year and then dividing that by the number of repeat donors in the following year. So you can look at what your organization's retention rate is. There's also other resources out there that will give you some ideas of what typical retention rates are, so you can go ahead and look at how you compare to other organizations of your size and cause. But ultimately, engagement does have a direct effect on retention. So the more you engage your donors, the better your donor retention rates will be. So an example of this, I have a personal example of this. I raised money for a nonprofit up in the Syracuse area by running the Lake Effect Half Marathon. So a marathon in the middle of February, right on the lake in Syracuse. And I was very passionate about the cause because I could personally relate to their direct mission. So I had a great time raising money. Running the half marathon was really hard and something I probably never want to do again. But afterwards, they gave me this beautiful swag bag and thank you cards directly after the event. But in the weeks following, years following, I never heard from them again. And it's been 3 years since I ran that half marathon. And whenever I see an advertisement for it, I get a warm, fuzzy feeling because I was really excited about fundraising on behalf of this nonprofit, but I don't get any more communications from them, so I kind of just forget about them. So we definitely want to, that's why engagement is so important, because I would love to personally volunteer my time to things other than running the half marathon. Maybe I could volunteer to help put it on, or I could help in other events. But because I'm not presented with that information, they don't make it easy for me to engage, I just forgot about it. So we want to have a presence with our donors and make sure that they don't forget about us. So one of the quotes that I love is, "You miss 100% of the shots you take." This is something I actually convey to my stepchildren all the time. If we don't try, then you are going to miss out on those opportunities. So it is very important to make that effort, and maybe you may have an engagement strategy for 1 year, and then you can adjust and realign with the changing tides and implement new and effective things. So it's very important just to think about what are the ways you can engage and then put them in effect. So this leads into donor stewardship strategies. So if you were on our webinar in January, we talked about donor stewardship in depth as a very crucial part of any nonprofit's overall strategy. So donor stewardship is really about meeting a donor's gift intentions and expectations. And it's about creating that long-term mutually beneficial relationship. Is every donor going to become a lifelong, super involved participant of your organization? No, they're not. But you are going to have those individuals who do have a deep connection and want to really be a part of things. So really this is from the time the donor first contributes to the end of the relationship, or when they leave your organization and no longer support you. It's about generating recurring support. So again, it's not just about money, it's about maybe volunteer hours, or maybe they can fundraise on your behalf, or maybe supply some resources that your organization needs, or maybe it's just sharing out your page on their social media. These are all things that they could do to be involved and really have a positive impact on your organization that don't really require money. And it does require a lot of attention and clear internal plans. So as we discussed in January, it is something that takes some thinking through and planning ahead of time, because once that gift is given, it is important to thank the donor appropriately and in a timely manner. So doing this work up front will speed things up in the long run. So here's some statistics I found that were kind of shocking. So 53% of donors leave due to a lack of communication. So in my example of doing peer-to-peer fundraising, that's why I left. Not that I left intentionally, but I just kind of forgot about them because there was no communication. So some of the other reasons they cite here that I find interesting is 36% find other organizations more deserving. So again, that can be clearly tied back to communication, making that clear ask and clearly conveying what your organization's needs are. As we talked in previous webinars, when you do make that ask, to make it very specific. Ask for a specific amount. Say what it's going towards directly. Saying, please donate to our organization. Well, I don't know what you need. I don't know what it's going for. You don't have the opportunity to prove to me what it was used for and then meet my expectations. So maybe I'll give $10. But if you say, I need $100 in order to finish building this swing set for this after-school program, then I'm going to be more inclined because I can now, A, connect to your cause, B, contribute in an effective manner because I know exactly how much to give, and C, you know how to meet my expectations. So after I make that $100, you can send me a picture of the jungle gym and a bunch of kids playing on it, and now I have a connection to your cause, and you've met my expectations. So now I have a reason to trust you. So being specific in our communication is key in developing those relationships. The other stat that I found shocking was 13% never got thanked for donating. So that's a key part of your donor stewardship plan. And as soon as a donation made, they should be thanked immediately, and then in the days following once again. And this is part of the GiveGab platform that we definitely pride ourselves on because we do send that thank you email immediately after a donation is given that has that personalized message from your organization on it, as well as the receipt information in order for them to file the taxes and declare that return. But as always, we do recommend that the nonprofit does follow up even after that thank you is sent. So just a few key components of donor stewardship. Segmenting your donors is a great way to create personal, effective, and manageable stewardship strategies. When we say segment donors, it may sound kind of harsh or mean, but really you want to classify your donors so that you can treat them according to the type of donor that they are. So again, we don't want to treat a $10 donation the same as a $5,000 donation. We still need to thank those donors, we still need to steward those donors, but we will do those in different fashions according to the amount that they've given. And we also want to keep it fresh. So we want to continuously implement new strategies to attract new donors. Doing the same thing over and over again tends to get boring, and then also the landscape changes, technology changes, social media mediums change. So we want to keep in tune with those things and adjust accordingly. And lastly, be consistent. There's a lot to a donor stewardship strategy, and you're interacting with your donors. You want to make sure that you have a clear internal plan and that your whole team is aligned on that. And that will also create more effective and quickly thank yous and stewardship in the future. All right, so let's flip it around a little bit and try to look at things a little bit more from the donor's perspective. So when we look at major donors and we look at how they go through the thought process of what they're going to give, major donors give very rationally. So if you were to buy a car or pick a college or buy a house, those are all things that we all step through very thoroughly and outweigh the pros and cons to doing them. So it's an investment. And those major donors, they're no different. They're making a large investment into your nonprofit, so they're going to go through that same process as they would with a large purchase. Alternatively, online donors are a little bit different. They tend to give a little bit smaller donations, and they tend to give a little bit more irrationally. So we like to relate this back to buying an emotion. I'm sure you've heard that in our webinars before, but it is a virtual emotion. So it's a lot like picking a restaurant or buying something off Amazon Prime. It's a quicker decision-making process. So that's why we recommend when you set up your Giving Day profile that they're short, sweet, and to the point, that there's images that capture what your goal is for that day. Because they're going through this quickly and they're making that decision very quickly. So we want to have that best impression. And it's also important to have a very effective donor conversion flow. So how easy is it for them to actually make that donation? So this is something that I found shocking in the research that I was doing. Only 12% of people who actually hit the donate button end up making that donation. It has been, people have seen that it's been as good as 18%, and some think it's as good as 30%. But even if you took the best case scenario, which this is 30%, 3 out of 10 people are actually making that donation. And those other 7 people are intended to make a donation, but they got so frustrated in the process that they abandoned it. So having the technology in place that provides a quick and easy way to actually execute that donation is going to be key in converting that donor. So again, having direct and to-the-point information. Don't overwhelm your donors with how much information or every facet of your organization. Be very clear and to the point, and concisely convey the mission that you are trying to achieve with the dollars that they're donating. And then also, as you go through GiveGab or any other site to donate, ask yourself how easy is it for somebody to click through and donate. Again, we make this as short and sweet to the point, and this is why we do not by default require phone numbers and addresses, because it can frustrate people. We also find that around 65% of people are donating through some kind of mobile device, so your tablet or your smartphone. I personally hate entering my address or my phone number or any unnecessary fields within my smartphone. So by taking these out, we make that donor conversion flow that much quicker. Of course, your organization does have the option to opt into it if you do require that information. But again, as you steward those donors, you can reach out and ask for that information later on. All right, so what do we need to have a strategy around attracting and retaining donors? So still looking at it from the donor perspective, what do they want? Trust and transparency is the biggest thing. As in my example, if I know that I donated $100 and I was told that it's going to go towards a playground for the End After School program, when I get that picture back of the playground with kids having fun on it, then I'm going to be reassured that my dollars were spent how I expected them. And by meeting those expectations, you're building that relationship and you're reinforcing that they can trust your organization. And then also, what do they think of their contributions? Again, this is about being very specific in what you need and what your organization needs for particular projects or goals. So 75% of people think they donate more than the average, and of those, 72% contribute at a lower rate than the national average. So everybody has a different means and different perceptions on how much they give, especially in comparison to others. But again, being specific about your ask and what you need it for will help get those numbers up. Also, use your current supporters to attract new ones. This is a great way to convey why people are so passionate about your organization, other than your staff members. People like to be able to relate and have those common interests. So having others who have developed that relationship with you speak on your behalf can be very impactful. Also, board members, they clearly have a vested interest. They're your board. But the fact that they are your board carries an immense weight. So having them reach out, leveraging their network, and providing testimonials will also be very effective. And also leveraging your volunteers. They're donating their time, which is just as good as a monetary donation. So asking them, why are you invested in our nonprofit? Why do you keep coming back? Will help other people to see that you are meeting their expectations and that you are transparent in your communications, and that that others can believe in your organization as well. Also, communicate the specific needs that they can fill. So again, it's not just about asking for dollars and cents. It's about asking for opportunities. Maybe your organization has a need within your staff that you can't necessarily afford to fill right now. For example, maybe you need a project manager that you can't employ. So if I am a project manager and I showed interest in that nonprofit, they could come to me and say, hey, we could really use your skills to manage this plan. It would take about X amount of hours a week. Could we trust you to do that? So presenting those kind of opportunities where it's things other than monetary donations will make your donors feel very valued and as an important asset to your overall organization. And this is how you can avoid donor fatigue. There's tons of resources out there about donor fatigue and whether it's a real thing or not, but really it boils down to how are you stewarding those donors and how are you thanking them. If you're continuously asking for dollars, asking, yes, they're going to get tired of it and get burned out and not feel valued and stop contributing. So make sure that more of the interactions that you have with your donors are more friendly, more informative than they are about asking. So looking at your prospects, so looking for those people who already have a vested interest in your cause. If they already have a vested interest, it'll be that much easier to develop that relationship. So if I'm not a cat person, so if you want to start talking to me about being passionate about rescuing cats, I mean, I love cats, but I wouldn't have one of my own. Maybe I wouldn't be the best person to prospect, but I do love dogs. So maybe if you were focusing on dog projects, you could come to me with a dog project, and I would be more inclined to do that because I have a vested interest in that. Also, my husband is allergic to cats, so I wouldn't want to put him through that. Also show that you are a legitimate organization. So if you're on GiveGab and you do participate in these giving days, we do verify that you're a 501c3 organization. But if you are using other platforms and in your communications, show that you're a legitimate company. I mean, people want to make sure that their money is going towards where they're putting it and that they're not contributing to a fraudulent place. And then again, I can't say this enough, demonstrate accountability and meet expectations. That's the quickest and easiest way to build trust in a relationship with a donor. And then be consistent. Again, having those plans and agreed upon with throughout your staff so that you are all in alignment with how you treat those donors. So you're not treating one donor vastly different than another. And then going back to the donor fatigue, diversify your calls to actions with your targeted supporters. Doing that will help build that relationship and make it so that they feel valued and a valuable asset to your company. So here we have a graph kind of outlining some of the different things that you can offer your donors to make them feel more involved, and how it kind of correlates to having high influence and highly involved members of your organization. So this is, I would recommend taking this live afterwards and take a look at this. But I mean, looking at some of these, the lower end would be examples of donating clothing or personal items, signing a petition, or learning more about an issue. Whereas more highly engaged modes of engagement would be organizing an event or becoming a peer-to-peer fundraiser, writing a blog about the cause, or recruiting others to sign a petition, or even sending personal emails or leveraging their social media network. So these are all different ways that you can engage a donor. And as you're going through your prospects and your donor list, you can kind of fit what these different tasks could be appropriate for that particular person. So the strategy to attract and retain your donors, this is your donor stewardship plan. So again, having this work done up front will help you do timely thank yous and interactions with those donors moving forward. And then have internal processes that are clear and achievable. So you want to make sure that internally you're all aligned and that you have strategies in place that are achievable and measurable so that you can do retrospectives on that and measure your success and adjust accordingly. Promptly thank your donors. Again, no donor should go unthanked and should be thanked multiple times. So part of that donor stewardship plan is how are you going to do that and how will that look? And then build trust and get to know your donors as individuals. Again, they're not just ATMs. You want them to be invested in your cause and really support you in ways other than monetary contributions. So other effective modes of engagement, brand raising. This is a good one. So what this does is establishes a feeling and ideas in people associating with your strategic identity or compelling materials. And it makes marketing an experience. So I think the best example of this is Apple. When you see an Apple commercial, you associate it with good feelings, you associate it with the best technology out there, reliability, and you get all these positive associations as you see those commercials, and they have a streamlined message to all of them. So you build this recognition towards that brand, and it works. Apple is a great company, but their technologies are just as good as Google or Microsoft sometimes. They're not always the best option. I'm sure there's plenty of people that disagree with me on the call here, but I mean, their brand raising is really effective because they're good at establishing that emotional connection through their marketing materials. So how can you do that with your marketing materials through your social media or through your newsletters or events? And then other year-round engagement ideas. You can hold thank you events, have a bunch of people get together and write thank you cards to everybody. You do informal events such as picnics or potlucks just to get all your donors together to say thank you that are very inexpensive but still really show that you appreciate them. You can also allow your supporters to buy actual resources for your cause. So if maybe you need pen and paper for your students at your after school program. Have them buy those instead of donating the $112 that it may take to buy those. Also, volunteer networking is a cool thing, and it's something that our platform does. And it just allows your volunteers to get to know each other. They already share a vested interest in your cause, so they have that commonality. So allow them to get to know each other, form relationships together, and that will make those volunteer opportunities that much more fun for them. Also asking what they think. So, again, going back to making them feel valued. So gathering their feedback on some kind of matter or difficulty or problem that you may be facing. Have them help you. They'll feel like you're valued, that their opinion matters, and then they're also be helping you in turn. So it's a great way to engage your donor. You can also create a survey. So something that here at GiveGab that we value all of our donors and our nonprofits, and we tend to gather that feedback through surveys because it is a very cheap and effective way of gathering that information. So that's another great way to ask your donors what they think. Also, peer-to-peer fundraising. I'm sure you've heard us talk about this a lot on our webinars, but the data has shown that peer-to-peer fundraising is insanely effective, and those organizations who do leverage peer-to-peer fundraising do raise more money than those who do not. So thinking about who those potential peer-to-peer fundraisers could be, whether they are your major donors, whether they're your board members or volunteers or even friends and family, all of these people could fundraise on your behalf because they support you and they care for your cause. So definitely tap into that option. And then we will, as we do our ILGIV Community Giving Day, as we will talk about in a few minutes, that we will have a webinar solely on peer-to-peer fundraising to help coach you through how you can leverage those people. And then there's a whole other campaigns, events, athlons, so you can do a walk-a-thon or thank-a-thon, anything to have an opportunity to get everybody together and participate in some kind of event. And then record and celebrate your milestones. So don't just blow through all of these things. Definitely look at the success and celebrate it, because they take a lot of effort and they have a lot of rewards. So don't forget to reflect and really appreciate where you've come from. Tools are a great way to help you in all of this. It may sound a little overwhelming, but there are tools out there. So on the GiveGab platform, we do have a donor client relationship management system, or donor database, to house this information. We also have online and event fundraising. That's kind of where we have our roots. So it's something that Bridget and her team are very passionate about, helping groups put together their fundraising event pages and give advice on how to run them and how to overcome some of the challenges that they face. Marketing and communication, can't say this enough. You want to be in continuous contact with your donors, so the platform does keep their email address, their first and last name, so that you can create custom correspondences to your donors, or you can do mass emails to them as well. Social media integration and mobile responsiveness, again, we find that roughly 65% of people are logging in from a tablet or a smartphone. And that's not a generational thing. We're even finding that baby boomers have a high rate of utilizing those mobile devices too. So leveraging that social media and having a mobile responsive platform are also critical pieces in engaging your donors. So if you do have any questions about how to leverage our platform, please feel free to reach out to our customer success team for more information on that. And last but certainly not least, just continue to delight your current donors. Keep it fresh. Conduct those retrospectives and adjust, and be honest about what has worked and what hasn't worked. Use those new technologies and resources. Google is your best friend forever. So there's tons of resources out there. Be conscious of the sources that you're looking at. You want to make sure you're getting your information from a reputable source. But don't be afraid to just Google, how do I engage donors? You'll get 1,000 different resources with a ton of different ideas that you can assess whether or not they fit your organization. Segment and communicate properly and effectively. Again, break those donors up into those different segments so that you can better communicate with them and make it more customized. And have fun. You love what you do, so show it. That excitement is contagious. It's kind of a cheesy thing to say, but it is contagious. And the more you're excited about it, the more excited your prospects will be, the more likely they are to donate and then become involved in your cause. So what are some of our key takeaways? We've said a lot today. So look at your numbers. So what are your retention rates as of today? And then define what your goals are. Are those retention rates acceptable? What do you want to increase them to? And then figure out what are the modes of engagement that you'll embrace in order to achieve those goals. So this doesn't have to be super complex. It could be as simple as picking one or two of these different modes of engagement and trying them out. And then execute and manage your results. So come up with that strategy and then start doing it. And then look at how they're working, try to measure how effective they are, and then adjust accordingly. Again, the technology landscape is always changing. There's always different fads, different social medias popping up and becoming popular. So keep an eye out on that and adjust your strategy accordingly. And I know we've said a lot today. There's donor engagement strategies, donor stewardship strategies. Forefront provides a fabulous library full of resources, and then these webinars are recorded, so you can always come back to them. But one of my favorite quotes is slow down to speed up. And this is something that I heard from one of my mentors a number of years ago, and I always think of this when I feel very overwhelmed or I have a huge task ahead of me. And just take a breath, appreciate where your organization is at today. You do amazing things. So just take it in small steps and get excited about what you're doing, and then just do it. It's an exciting time, exciting opportunity for your organization to get out there and build those relationships. So take your time defining the relationships, defining your strategy, and then once you get those donors and you start executing that strategy, things will fly by, and you'll have that success so much quicker. So with that, I am going to pass it back over to Kathleen, who's going to talk Kathleen or Lisa, who will talk a little bit about IlGive community that I alluded to a few minutes ago.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. Thanks so much, Vanessa. I'm Kathleen Murphy. I'm the Director of Communications here at Forefront. I have been helping out run IlGive for the past few years. We're really excited to announce, I'm sure you've heard, about our IlGive Community Day. It's going to take place from 6 p.m. May 30th through 6 p.m. May 31st. So we're doing a little bit different timeline this time around. I'm excited about it. It's a 24-hour fundraising challenge. We're going to run it just like we did IlGive for Giving Tuesday. We'd love to have you join us and learn more at our webinar next Friday. You can find the link on our events page at myforefront.org/events to register and find out more about how to get registered and how to get ready for your campaign. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, here at GiveGab, we're really excited about having this Giving Day as well. And then also our next webinar will be April 21st, and this will focus on why segmenting donors, or why segmenting improves donor engagement. So segmenting has been a common theme in all of our webinars to date. So we're going to dive more deeply into that and what does segmenting mean, how does it look, and then why and how it improves your overall donor engagement. So I know we're over, and I apologize. Lisa or Kathleen, are there any questions that you want to address before we wrap up the webinar?
No, we did have a question from Monica about turning volunteers into donors, and so I let her know, and I'll just say it out loud in case you're on the phone and not looking at your computer for some reason, that in June we are scheduled to do a webinar about turning your volunteers into donors, so I hope you'll join us then. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Vanessa and Bridget, as always, and we'll look forward to seeing you all back, I hope, next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.